Hey everyone, this is Michael Ray. We'll be going over Chapter 9, Problem 3A. So it says so this problem lays out Crane Company had the following assets on January 1st, 2017. And then you can see the table right there. And then during 2017, each of the assets was removed from service. The machinery was retired on January 1st. The forklift was sold on January 30th. And the truck was discarded on December 31st. So our task here is to journalize all entries required on the above dates, including entries to update depreciation where applicable on disposed assets. So the company uses straight line depreciation. All depreciation was up to date as of December 31st, 2016. So to get started, we are going to go to our first date, which will be, January 1st, which is the day that the first transaction took place, which is when we retired our machinery on January 1st. So what we're going to do there, so when you want to retire machinery off the book, basically what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to debit our accounts we're going to want to debit accumulated depreciation for the for equipment here. And since the machinery purchase date was 2007 and it has a useful life of 10 years, and we're doing this in 2017, so we've had it for 10 years already. So basically we're going to be doing the entire cost of the equipment there. So we'll do that, and then we credit the plant assets account because it was a plant asset. So, and actually I think I made a mistake up here on accumulated depreciation, and we want to do plant assets instead of equipment. So, and then in the next one, the next entry here, so we know this is to record the depreciation expense on the forklift. So the forklift that we sold on June 30th. So we're going to calculate all the depreciation that we have had up until that point. So to start off with that, we're selling it in June, so the end of June, for $11,760. So the forklift costs $29,400, and its useful life is 5 years. So to calculate depreciation, we're going to take $29,400 and divide it by 5. And that's going to give us hold on here. So 29,000. So 29,400, sorry. So 29,400 divided by 5, and that'll give us 5,880. Now we are only going to be doing this since the depreciation's updated all the way from December 31st, 2016, we only need to calculate for 6 months of depreciation this year before we sell the car. So we would do 6 divided by 12, which is basically 1/2. So for the calculation's sake, I just multiplied that by 0.5, and that brings us to 2940. So we'll go ahead and plug that number in. And so we are going to debit the depreciation expense account for 2940, because that's all the depreciation we've accumulated this year so far. And we are going to credit the accumulated depreciation for equipment, and that will be for the same amount, 2,940. And then we move on to the actual record the sale of the forklift. So on June 30th, we sold the forklift for cash. That's going to be credited. We sold the forklift for $11,760. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to tally up all the depreciation on the forklift to date. So for all the years that we've used it, plus the 6 months this year, so accumulated depreciation equipment. And so basically what we're going to do is we're going to take, let's see, we're in 2017. We bought it in 2014, and it's useful for 5 years. So it's still got 2 years left on it. But so we want to calculate the accumulated depreciation for 2014, 2015, 2016, and then the other half of the year, which we already calculated for. So basically, we need to calculate for 3 more years, which, if you remember, our other amount was 5,880 times 3 years. Let me make sure I got that right. 5,880 times 3. It's 17,640. Or hold on, let me make sure I'm doing this right. So we have 29,400 divided by 5 gives us 5,880. Perfect. Okay, yeah. And then times that by 3 for 3 years. And then we're going to add in what our other amount was, which was 2,940. That gives us 20,580. So we'll plug that in. So 20,580. Our next category here, we're going to I'm actually going to go down to equipment because this is just kind of how my works. So the total cost of the equipment was, for the forklift, was 29,400. And so how I figure out this next amount, which is what our loss or gain is I go and I subtract those amounts from what we were looking at here. So we know it costs us 29,400. So, and then we have depreciation of 20,580, and then subtract the cash that we sold it for, 11,760. That gives us negative $2,940. Now this is going to be represented as a gain in the disposal of plant assets because we made money selling the forklift, because we know that the forklift lost to $20,580 in value from 29. So that left us with about $9,000 left over, and we sold it for closer to 11. So that amount right there, 2,940, is our gain. So 2,940 is our gain. And then, so if you add these 3 together, they're going to equal the equipment cost there. And then, so we move on to our next entry, which, so after we sell the forklift, we move on and we're going to record the depreciation of the truck expense. So basically what we're going to do it just like we did with the forklift before. So on December 31st, we have a depreciation expense. And so we know for the truck, it's 32,736. So 30,000. 4,700. Sorry, 36. And its useful life is 8 years. So divide that by 8. It's 4,092. So we need to look. We bought the truck in 2012, and so we've owned the truck for 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017. So we've owned the truck for, and since we're doing this at the end of the year, it's our 6th year owning the truck. And so we'll times this number by 6. So we have a depreciation expense of 24,550. Actually, sorry, that's not correct because we are all up to date on our depreciation. So we're actually just going to go with that first number, which was 4,092. Since we're only doing the depreciation expense for this year and not for the previous years. Later on, when we're doing the next category here, we'll add in the full 6 years. And then we have accumulated depreciation. The equipment, truck would be considered equipment, 4,092. Perfect. And so now we're moving on. This says to record the sale of the truck, but really what they're doing is just discarding the truck. So we have here on December 31st, we're going to credit the accumulated depreciation on the equipment of 24,552. And then we have, we're going to do loss on disposal of plant assets. So like I said, the accumulated depreciation was for the full 6 years. So 6 times 4,092 is what gave us that 24,552. And we're going to subtract that from the 32,000 that we have for the initial cost of the truck. Let's do that here. So the initial cost was 32,736. Minus, back down here to 24,552. That'll give us 8,184 is what we're taking a loss on disposing of this truck. And that loss will be credited to the equipment, or we're going to credit the equipment account for the full cost of the truck to balance out the sheet here. So 32,736. And so these two numbers add up to equal this number. So the sheet's all balanced here, and I'll go ahead and submit this to make sure that we got the right accounts. I might have mixed up a couple accounts in here. So we'll check that out real quick. Yeah, see, well, I mixed up a couple of things here. So that's all right. You know, that's why we get a few shots. So so this is probably equipment, not plant assets. Accumulated depreciation of equipment as well instead of plant assets. And then this is on the wrong side of the accounting sheet, I'm realizing. So I'll go away. If it was a loss, we would list it in the credits column. And if it's a gain, we're crediting the account instead. So that's what I did there. It looks like I did my math wrong for the depreciation expense on the truck. So I know what I did here. So the truck actually has a salvage value. So what we need to do there, since When we dispose of the truck, we'll get that value back. So we'll actually take 32,736 minus 2,944, because no matter how much it depreciates, the salvage value will still get that value back. And so then that leaves us with a new amount of 29,792. And so we divide that by our useful years of life, which is 8, which gives us a lower amount of 3,724. So that's going to change. So our accumulated depreciation over the, let's see, I said we had it for 6 years. So we'll multiply this amount by 6. That'll give us 22,344. So the difference between these two, so we want to get up to this to this amount here. So we'll take $32,736 minus 2,344. That'll give us, we're taking a loss of $10,392 by discarding the truck. So let's try this again. Still got one more attempt, so if I need to fine-tune my answer, no, looks like we got it all correct this time. So zoom in out a little bit. So we can see all the stuff there. So if you guys have any questions, just go ahead and post your comments in the thread and we can go over those questions that you guys have. So thank you guys for your time. I hope you enjoyed the video and I hope you could understand the problem.